Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Health, Environment, and Community Engagement Committee. My name is Cam Gordon. I'm chair of the committee, and today we're joined by full complement of the committee: Alondra Cano, Elizabeth Glidden, Andrew Johnson, the vice chair, Lisa Bender, and Jacob Fry. Welcome, everybody. We have a number of interesting items on the agenda today, 8 items altogether. We have 5 of those are consent items, and we have a presentation and then 2 discussion items. I'm just in case people are here for the consent items, I think I'll go through those first so that we can answer any questions, and then we'll move into our first presentation. So the consent items include, from the City Coordinator's Office, authorizing submittal of an application for the U.S. Department of Energy's Cities Leading Through Energy Analysis and Planning Grant for $500,000. From the Health Department, we have an item accepting a bid of CuraScript Specialty Distribution in the amount of $100,000 to furnish and deliver medication device products for the Health Department. The third consent item, 4th item on our agenda, is accepting a grant from New Venture Fund to achieve Bright Cities status. The next item is authorizing an amendment to a contract we have with EMSL Analytic, Inc. for lead testing services. And then the last consent item is amending a staff direction that we issued directing Finance and Property Services to prepare requests for proposals for community solar garden services to be provided to the city. We wanted them to prepare this and return back in February. We weren't able to meet that timeline, so now we have a new staff direction where we're going to divide the RFP into 2 stages. First stage is authorizing issuance of an RFP for community solar to be provided to the city that will focus on certain criteria, including potential ownership by the city of Minneapolis of the renewable energy credits. It's the most significant piece of that, I think. And then the second stage, after that is done, we'd get a report back to our committee on the development of another RFP that attempts to incorporate some separate criteria, including potential ownership of a garden that's located within the city of Minneapolis, and also something that would have subscriptions available to Minneapolis residents and businesses who are more moderate or low income. So those are the consent items. Are there any questions on any of those? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 questions regarding item number 6. First, is there a reason why we're splitting them into 2 RFPs as opposed to 1?
Yes, essentially, having such a complicated RFP seemed to be taking a lot of time for staff to complete. And there was a challenge, and there was even concerns about who would respond. And so we decided this was a staff recommendation, and Mr. Milberg's here if he wants to respond to that too. Decided we break it into 2 RFPs and try 2 different approaches. Would you like further clarification from staff? We can do that too.
No, not unless there's anything further to clarify.
Okay.
Covered it. And then the second question was regarding the energy credits. What would be the alternative to the city than owning the energy credits?
Well, typically the way these deals work, and I'm not the expert in this, but the energy credits go to Excel.
Yeah, that's about it.
And Excel takes those energy credits, and then they can use them meeting their clean energy requirements from the state.
Okay.
And then whoever operates the solar garden gets the financial benefit of those from Excel. So if we are to hold the credits, it's not going to save us as much money, but then we would also be forcing Excel to get renewable energy elsewhere. Okay. Right. So it would have a bigger impact on climate change. That's the way I see it anyway. Okay. Any questions on any of the other consent items? Seeing none, then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Those items carry then. And now we're ready to move on with our first presentation. And I'm going to ask Patrick Hanlon to come up. This is I can't remember if this is our 3rd time we've done this, but it's, I think, our 3rd annual presentation of the 2016 Minneapolis Green Business Awards for clean air projects and pollution reduction.
Chair Gordon, council members.
I was sitting on a flight last night back from a hiking trip in Utah, trying to think of how best to start today's awards. I was thinking of all the people involved with our work. I looked down next to me and my wife was reading In Style magazine, the June edition. There on the page was the introduction to my speech. It was a quote from an interview with Julia Roberts, of all people, bolded and enlarged. Although an unlikely source, it was perfect. I am hoping to be the first person to start an HECE presentation with a Julia Roberts quote. The quote read, "You can never give credit for something to just one person. Singular credit doesn't exist." This is especially true of the Green Business Cost Share program that has been made successful only through amazing partnerships, city leadership, and dedicated business owners. The projects you will hear today don't just happen. They take a group of individuals and organizations, and most of all, committed business leaders bucking the status quo for meaningful change. The Green Business Cost Share program provides matching investment from pollution fees to assist businesses in implementing win-win solutions to environmental issues. The result of these projects are a safer workplace for employees, cleaner air in our neighborhoods, and an entire city becoming good stewards of our shared regional air quality, and last but not least, stronger businesses as they implement innovative change to meet their business needs. The Green Business Award recipients we're recognizing today are not only city leaders, but state and national leaders in innovative problem solving for cleaner, safer, and sustainable business practices. It is my honor to have worked with these businesses in making Minneapolis Green Business Program a model practice through Clean Air Minnesota, a statewide group dedicated to air quality through public-private partnership. And to start off, thank you, Stephanie Zawistowski from the Mayor's Office, for your leadership in Clean Air Minnesota on behalf of the city. Before I go into the awards, I would like to recognize the many partners that have made this work possible. First, one of our main partners, Environmental Initiative, who assists us in outreach and helping to find additional funding to make these projects happen. If there's anyone from Environmental Initiative here, I don't believe there is. Okay. Another main partner is the Minnesota Technical Assistance Program through the University of Minnesota, who assist us and the businesses in providing technical assistance and counting every pound of pollution reduction from a project. There are a host of other partners, including the Green Business Cost Share Panel from the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, Matt Johnson and Tony Koalis, the Center for Earth, Energy, and Democracy, Shalini Gupta and Dr. Martinez, the American Lung Association, John Hunter, Kelly Marsick, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, Eric David, with us today, Mark Schneider, and not to mention David Thornton and Commissioner John Linkstein for their leadership statewide. Community Planning and Economic Development, Bob Lind and Becky Shaw. We are so grateful for the thought and care each individual and organization takes in making this work possible. And without further ado, the first Green Business Award goes to Smythe Printing. Bill, if you want to, Bill Denzen will come from Smythe Printing to accept the award. Hold it. Dan can hold it while you talk. Smythe Printing produces innovative label design and manufacturing in South Minneapolis. Their initiative was the largest voluntary emission reduction, not only in Minneapolis, but statewide. Smythe Printing installed an innovative LED curing technology that reduced the amount of solvent necessary for printing operations in one of their painting lines. The change is expected to reduce 14,000 pounds of VOC emissions annually. An amazing and industry-leading project. Thank you, Smythe Printing.
Thanks, Patrick. I just want to clarify one thing. It's a printing line, not a painting line, but often confuse inks and paint. They're very similar. Sincere thanks to the council members, the mayor, and the entire city of Minneapolis and everyone that Patrick referenced that helped in this project. And a special thanks to Patrick for the many hours and conversations we had just getting this going. And for your work and just getting a company the size of Smythe into the program. I know previously it was geared more towards smaller businesses. So again, a great thanks. And it was an interesting project, as Patrick mentioned. It eliminated about 14,000 pounds of VOCs, which was about 40% of our emissions. And it's just great to know, at Smythe, we have we call it LIFE. It's a label initiative for the environment. It's an industry-wide green initiative that we subscribe to and are intimate and involved and actively engaged in trying to reduce our carbon footprint. And we hadn't really thought about air emissions so much. We had several projects that kind of nipped at that. A lot of it was at energy consumption. So to tackle a project like this that, as Patrick stated, helps make a better environment for our employees, the city, and overall was a great project. And as I mentioned, it's part of a larger green initiative that we have at Smythe to, again, reduce our carbon footprint. And LED, like in a lot of our homes, it's taking over technologies. It requires a lot less energy to use. It creates less heat. There's just a lot of benefits to the technology, and it's one that our ink companies are putting a lot of money into and developing. And it was one that we would ultimately have gotten into, no doubt about it. It's the way the world is going in printing. But with the help of this grant, it really put it to the front of the line and allowed us to get into the technology much more quickly. And we're currently developing additional LED inks in addition to the project that this one covered, and converting additional work over. And we're excited. We actually, it is a very significant energy savings. We also piggybacked in an Xcel Energy rebate, which was substantial. So again, very grateful for all the contributions for the people here. And we'll put that investment to great use going forward in developing additional label technology. So thank you.
The next award goes to Central Auto Body, located in a residential neighborhood in northeast Minneapolis. Central Auto Body was the first company to retrofit their paint booth to convert to waterborne paint. The change is a case study for low-cost alternatives when a company has a slightly used but usable paint booth and transitions to waterborne paint. The cleaner technology eliminates harmful pollutants both inside and outside the business, which means cleaner air for their neighbors. The retrofit also came with new personal protection equipment for employees. This project eliminates 357 pounds of harmful pollutants directly in a residential neighborhood where Central Auto Body is located. Unfortunately, about an hour before the awards here, Rick Johnson from Central Auto Body called and said they have had I won't go into the details, but a crazy day over there, and so they weren't able to get someone over here. But we want to say thank you to Central Auto Body all the same. The next award goes to Unison Comfort Technologies. Jay Althoff, if you want to come up and join us up here. Unison Comfort Technologies, headquartered in North Minneapolis, is a heating, ventilating, and air conditioning manufacturer that provides energy-efficient solutions for large commercial buildings such as schools, shopping malls, and data centers. And feel free to correct me if I say anything wrong here, okay? Unison Comfort Technologies took advantage of the City of Minneapolis business cost share, Green Business Cost Share Program, as well as the Grow North initiative to change out an existing paint booth that was too small to hold large pieces of custom HVAC equipment. The new booth allows for a completely enclosed work environment in which to paint HVAC units and has updated personal protection equipment for employees. This project eliminates 3,340 pounds of harmful chemical pollutants and 518 pounds of fine particulate pollution in North Minneapolis. Thank you to Unison Comfort Technologies for your commitment to cleaner technologies and the energy savings you provide the world by the very energy efficient products that you produce. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let me also say thanks to Patrick for many, many hours helping us get through the process, and to everyone that you referenced earlier. I know that it takes a large number of bodies, people, to help us get there. A bit of pride, perhaps, on our part. We moved to the current facility we're in 10 years ago. in February, this last February, 10 years ago. We were a little less than $25 million in revenue at that time. This year we'll surpass $120 million in revenue, and the growth that went along with that. So part of the reason the paint booth, larger paint booth was needed is due to that growth. Well over 300 employees now in the North Minneapolis area. Gene, our plant manager, and Lee, our industrial engineering leader, would comment not only is it less issue from a green perspective, the quality of the products have gone up as well. So we get a little bit of a win-win there too. So again, thanks to everyone for the sharing that cost. It was a very significant project, as you know, and it helped a bunch keep us there. Thank you.
Thank you. So in closing, it's humbling to work with these businesses and so many great partners to make our city a healthier place to live. It's an innovative and effective approach to environmental health, and people are starting to notice. Since its start in 2013, the Green Business Program has received the following recognitions. In 2013, What Works in Minnesota, Minnesota Healthy Communities, Humphrey School of Public Affairs Local Government Innovation Award, the Minnesota Department of Health's Community Health Leadership Award, and just this year, a national model for public health practices by the National Association of County and City Health Officials. Chair Gordon, I would like to thank you and this committee for supporting and making all of this work possible, for supporting the green businesses in your wards, through the budget support, through the ordinance changes such as our recent pollution control restructure, the PERC restrictions, the commitment to air quality study and identifying areas to target with this program, and taking the time today to recognize our business leaders and partners. I would like to thank Director Dan Huff for his consistent advocacy of the program. I would like to thank Commissioner Musicant for her leadership in creating a culture of trust and encouraging innovation. I would like to thank Mayor Betsy Hodges for her leadership in expanding this concept of on-the-ground partnerships with local businesses. Thank you to Jim Doughton for helping getting this program off the ground in the beginning, and the rest of the environmental services team. This is a model that works, and I'm proud to be serving all of you, both in front of me and behind me and watching, and carrying it out. In 2015, the businesses you have heard today have reduced 18,315 pounds of pollution. Bringing this young program's total to 12 tons of pollution from entering our air every year in Minneapolis. I know we need to savor this moment, but I am already looking forward to coming back here and to celebrate the 2016 successes. We have some great projects in store. Chair Gordon, council members, thank you again.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation and all the businesses who partnered with us. It's very significant, this work. It's one of the fun things that we get to do. And I really appreciate the department. I understand this was kind of your idea and something that you've been nurturing along too, Mr. Hanlon. So we really appreciate you taking the initiative and helping this grow and be successful. Really makes a big difference. Now I suspect we're supposed to receive the presentation, so I'm going to move to receive this formally, as well as formally congratulate all the award winners. Any questions on that? Seeing none, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Now we'll move on to our last two items. The next item is the receiving and filing of the Minneapolis Clean Energy Partnership first annual report. And I think we're going to hear from representatives from each of the key partners in making this report. So we'll have from the city. I was going to say Gail Prest, but we have Peter Ebnett. And maybe you can start us off and introduce other presenters as they come up.
Sure.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Gordon, committee members. My name is Peter Ebnett, and I'm a management analyst in the city clerk's office, and I've been helping out in the sustainability office on the Clean Energy Partnership. We are here today to deliver the Clean Energy Partnership's 2015 annual report. As you know, the City of Minneapolis, Xcel Energy, and CenterPoint Energy formed the Clean Energy Partnership in January of 2015. It represents a first in the nation collaboration between a municipality and its electric and gas providers to achieve energy efficiency and renewable energy goals, which ultimately is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. This report captures 2015, the partnership's efforts in developing the structure and the 2-year work plan, an overview of activities, and baseline metrics. I will give a brief overview of the history, operating structure of the partnership, and we'll also give an overview of the report. So as a little bit of background, early in 2014, the Energy Pathways study was completed, and this detailed the city's vision for a sustainable 21st century energy system. In October of 2014, based on that study, Council directed staff to work with utilities to implement the Clean Energy Partnership to help the city reach its climate action plan and energy vision for 2040 goals. In January of 2015, the Minneapolis Clean Energy Partnership was launched, and again, the ultimate target of this was an 80% greenhouse gas reduction by 2050. The partnership functions primarily through its board, a community-based Energy Vision Advisory Committee, also known as EVAC, and a staff-level planning team. This multi-directional relationship connects the community, the city, and its utilities with the policymakers and business executives. The partnership meets on a quarterly basis, and its work is outlined in a 2-year annual report. The Energy Vision Advisory Committee provides feedback on the work plan and also the metrics and work of the board. EVAC reviews and provides feedback on the Clean Energy Partnership's work plan, as well as performance reports, and receives feedback or gives feedback on the planning team's work. They serve as a critical communication link to share information about the Clean Energy Partnership, its decisions and activities with their respective communities. This slide is a list of our EVAC members who have been instrumental in the success of our first year. And I also want to recognize planning team members who are here today. If you could stand and be recognized. As with any new organization, much of the first year is focused on establishing the structure, work plan, metrics, coordinating communication, and learning to leverage the unique resources available to each one of the entities. The report before you divides out our 8 agreed upon metrics, with raw data displayed at the top, starting on page 14, followed by a narrative analyzing that data. After almost all of the metrics, there are detailed census tract maps displaying the programs or participants located throughout the city. As far as we know, this is the most detailed information at the census tract level in the country. Additionally, the appendix includes equally detailed demographic data of our city's residents. That starts on page 80. The combination of these data sets and maps enables us to look at the ways in which our varied communities are utilizing the energy efficiency programs and will assist us in future efforts to ensure that these programs are distributed equitably. There is much work to come to fully digest and analyze the data, but having compiled this first year's report and doing so over the coming years will help us to better understand the complex interplay between these different programs and communities that they serve. With that introduction, I'll turn the presentation over to Bridget Doctor of Xcel Energy, Al Swintek from CenterPoint Energy, and our Sustainability Director, Gail Prest, to walk you through the results of the annual report.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Gail Prest. I'm the Sustainability Director of the City of Minneapolis. And let's get to the report. This was a lot of fun. So the executive summary starts on page 5. If you want to turn to that, we're going to try and get you to look at the report. I would like to say that EVAC actually reviewed and gave recommendations on this report. We were able to incorporate a lot of them, and those that we couldn't, we're using them and keeping them for next year. It's important to remember that this is the baseline. So this took a lot of effort. It took months just to gather this data at a census tract level. And so from here on in, we're going to be doing much deeper dives on the information and starting to really think about how we can do a better job based on this information. But in terms of the executive summary, we do a job of talking about the history. We know that most people will be reading the executive summary, not the whole full report. I think to put it in perspective, in 2015, Excel touched 19,600 Minneapolis participants. They gave out $5.45 million in rebates, and there were 88,000 gigawatt hours in first-year savings. We've never been able to capture those kinds of numbers before, so that's just a starting point. But some of the things we do want to highlight, in addition to the structure that Peter was talking about and work plans and metrics and how we all work together, there were some great things that we learned. One was that in 2015, Excel and CenterPoint actually spent more than $1 million combined to help low-income residents improve the energy efficiency of their programs. And this was leveraged with nearly an additional $1 million in federal support for residential weatherization programs. The city of Minneapolis bought down Home Energy Squad. You approved a short-term program at the end of last year, so we bought down 150 Home Energy Squad, which is this great program where you go in and you get CFLs and aerators and an energy audit and financing programs. It's a real simple tool for people to use. 150 income qualified residents use that program. 31 0% financing loans. We'll talk a little bit more about those numbers. Solar, look at this, listen to this one. There was a 40% increase in solar installations in 2015 over 2014. So in 2015, we did 92 solar installations in the city compared with 56 in 2014. We're almost up to a megawatt of solar installation last year, and these are new solar installations. So that program is really building. When I first started working on solar in the city in 2008, it would be like under 20 a year. So in just a few short years, we're really building that program up. And I think we've really started to dig deep into looking at energy efficiency program innovations in single family and multifamily programs. And you'll be hearing more about that. So that's the executive summary. Here's, as Peter mentioned in the appendix, it's the metrics. As you know, in Minneapolis, we do everything by the numbers, trying to drive. So it's 8 metrics that EVAC and the board approved. And this is basically what sets up our annual report. So the first one I want to talk about are greenhouse gas emissions. So currently we have data, full data, only through 2014. And greenhouse gas emissions actually are at 7.5%. At one point in 2012, they were at 12%. But if you remember, and most of us don't, 2013 and 2014 was a really cold winter, and it really drove up natural gas usage and therefore the emissions. When we started looking at preliminary 2015 electricity and natural gas numbers, the numbers are down dramatically, but we still have to get information from the Airport Commission and MnDOT and things like that before we'll be able to come up with our 2015 numbers. I think the other thing that's really important to look at, in the last 8 years, we've had 3,000 new buildings and almost 27 million square feet of new buildings. So we don't track emissions per capita. We track overall our goal is. And so you can see it's pretty amazing based on the growth that we have here. I think the other thing that's really important to notice, and if you look, this is page 14, Xcel Energy is actually, we've reduced our electricity greenhouse gas emissions 22%. That's primarily because they're cleaning up their, getting rid of a lot of their coal plants, and also its energy efficiency programs.
Can you just remind us, we've reduced them, that percent from 2006 baseline?
Yep, 2000.
Just make sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to quickly talk about the commercial building energy use. And if you remember, back in April, I brought our energy benchmarking program to HECE, and we gave that annual report. So that's where we actually benchmarked 429 buildings of our largest buildings. Buildings over 25,000 square feet if you're a public entity, and over 50,000 square feet if you're a private sector. We know in a short period of time, we've been able to show 7% decline in energy use based on people starting to track and taking advantage of rebates and things like that. This is 50% of our commercial building space, and it's 70% of our greenhouse gas emissions, so it's really important. I think the other thing we started this last year was the Minneapolis Building Challenge, where buildings are challenged to reduce their energy usage 15% by 2020. And so far, we have 15 buildings that have signed up, and we need to do a better job of promoting that program. We think it's a great program. We have such great programs, but we've got to put some more kind of oomph into that one, and we look forward to doing that. I think that overall, the energy the disclosure program is expanding nationally and regionally. Chicago's doing it now, and Denver's starting, and I think you're seeing this as a best management practice. I think what we're really trying to do is not just benchmark using a national platform on how energy and water is used, but also to drive energy efficiency, to have those building operators actually look at their data and to say, hey, so-and-so is doing a better job than I am. So let me call up Excel or CenterPoint and let's take advantage of some of the rebates they have. So with that, we'd like to talk about the commercial energy efficiency program.
Good morning.
After-
I'm Bridget Doctor with Excel Energy.
Hi.
Hi. So on pages 18 and 19 of the report are the maps, and behind each narrative section are maps that accompany the narrative. On the commercial sector, you'll notice Excel and CenterPoint, we tried to combine those to give you a good combined picture. CenterPoint Energy, between 2014 and 2015, we have a little bit of a slightly different picture here. CenterPoint Energy, they got to more customers and did more rebates, but the energy savings actually decreased. So they had a little bit different clientele or a little bit different customer base that picked up. And on the Excel Energy side, we actually, we did get to more customers, but we also got some bigger projects. And coming from Excel, I did a little bit of digging to give you an idea of what types of programs and what types of projects actually brought those savings in. We have a commercial efficiency program that works for businesses for longer term projects in phases, and they get bonuses for completing those projects within those phases. And the types of projects that were completed were business lighting, lighting within parking ramps, data centers, building controls, and recommissioning. And this program really spreads through word of mouth to build our pipeline in things like hospitals, universities, and then business campuses. Our commercial lighting program really did well this year. We worked on a midstream lighting incentive. We called it a midstream lighting incentive, where we bought down the cost of LEDs to distributors, and then they decreased that cost to stores and installers. And then our energy design assistance program, which is the new construction within the city. And you'll see on page 17, the bottom of the page is a table that lists the energy design assistance that happened within the city. This is something that we're going to look at further in 2016 and 17 and beyond. We think there's a lot of potential with the utilities in the city working together to really tap into this at the right time, to make sure that we're working with architects and developers to get in early on. We had 24 buildings completed in 2015. Of those, CenterPoint Energy, there was a joint participant in 11. The remaining were NRG. So CenterPoint doesn't have the opportunity to participate in all of those. The next is metric 3. That's the residential building energy use. Within this metric, we track our overall residential energy use and specific programs such as Home Energy Squad, air sealing insulation, and low income. And we'll talk about those specifically a little bit later on here. We have the 2014 baseline and then 2015 numbers. Chair Gordon, we got those numbers for you from Friday's meeting, and happy to report that they did decrease.
So just for my committee members and colleagues up here, you might want to write those in your report in front of you because they're not available in the printed version. But I really appreciate seeing them.
Yes. Well, we will make sure we get them to you in hard copy.
No.
They're online.
Yeah, I don't know that we have to reprint the whole report, but
Okay.
And so we can print out this PowerPoint because we have access to it.
Great. Gas residential usage is typically tied to space and water heating, while electric is air conditioning and appliances. In 2015, Excel Energy offered bonus rebates to its residential customers, such as point of sale lighting rebates, where you could go in and purchase lighting at stores you could get CFLs for $1, LEDs for $5, refrigerator recycling, a $50 bonus rebate, and then home energy squad copay discounts, such as Groupons. These were communicated through city council member newsletters, and then we started to learn about leveraging through joint social media avenues. And again, this is something that we will start to do a lot more in the coming years as well. CenterPoint Energy partnered with the city to promote its low-flow shower head and faucet aerator program through the city's utility bills. This was a very successful program. They ended up with a total of 1,517 requests, saving 11,612 decatherms, the equivalent of 103 cars removed from Minneapolis annually. This is a 10% uptake from what they normally get from this program, just from putting these in the city's utility bills. And then on the slide itself, I just wanted to give you a picture of total customer base. Gas, CenterPoint has 120,000 customers. Xcel, we have 174,000 customers. And then to give you an average monthly energy use, 79 therms on the gas side. And then on the electric side, 469 kilowatt hours. Minneapolis is slightly less than the rest of Xcel's service territory, probably for a couple of reasons. Your high rental population, you have a lot of apartments, smaller homes, and then high energy efficiency uptake in it. Minneapolis participates quite a bit. Metric 4, local and directly purchased renewable energy. Xcel Energy offers 3 renewable energy options in Minneapolis: wind source, community solar gardens, and rooftop solar. Wind source, Minneapolis customers have consistently made up approximately 20% of our total wind source subscriptions within Minnesota. And you'll see the number there. We currently have over 13,000 Minneapolis customers. That's cumulative from 2012 to 2015. Next year, we'll start tracking on an annual basis, but also keep that cumulative number. Community solar gardens, we had, as the program ramped up, there were none online in 2015. There is one adjacent, online and adjacent to Hennepin County right now that Minneapolis customers can sign up for in Ramsey County. And I believe, and 103 other gardens, not necessarily all adjacent to Minneapolis, but 103 other gardens that are in development and design right now. So we expect by the end of the year over 200 megawatts online, and by 2017 over 400 megawatts. And then rooftop solar, as Gail said, this program really increased between 2014 and 2015 with a 40% increase. And with that, I will pass it over to Al Swintek from CenterPoint Energy.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chairman Gordon and committee members. My name is Al Swintek. I'm with CenterPoint Energy. Our offices are located at 505 Nicollet Mall. This afternoon, I'm going to talk about metrics number 5 through 8 in the annual report. The first one being our Home Energy Squad participation. That's a joint program with Xcel Energy and CenterPoint Energy. Last year in 2015, we had nearly 1,200 Home Energy Squad visits, which is up significantly from 2014. Now, nearly 300 of those visits were in single metered multifamily projects, which maybe skews the numbers slightly, but even if you account for that, we're still up almost 24% 2015 compared to 2014, which is significant. That 1,200 Home Energy Squad visits, by the way, equates to about 1% of our entire residential population in the city of Minneapolis. So far, well, if you go back to 2009, we're up to about 9% of all residential properties that have been that have had a Home Energy Squad visit. Last year, we also launched a pilot project to encourage customers to move forward with ACI, which stands for air sealing insulation, attic sealing insulation, I think. What does it stand for? Air sealing insulation, thank you. So we launched this pilot project, and it was very successful. So the project does a couple things. It first of all, the project. Excuse me here. So the air sealing and insulation project provides free. The city bought down Home Energy Squad visits. There were 150 visits that were done for low-income residents, and the air sealing pilot project bought down. There were a significant amount of loans that were also made available